I, for one, would be really, really interested in a pragmatic set of candidates, and I wouldn't really even care which party they ran in, as long as they were, um, let's say, intellectually and otherwise committed to following the facts and testing and educating the public and maybe testing some things small, just a rational set of ways to move forward. That would look really, really appealing to me. I got to say, that would be really appealing because we don't have anything like that. And it's because we don't really have the personnel in place that could pull that off. Could Mark Cuban and Yang pull off the first rational administration? I think they could. I think they could. All right. Let's take another call. Jonathan looks like he's full of vim. I don't know what vim is, but Jonathan, are you there? I said you're full of vim, and then I don't even know what vim is. It's like vim and vigor, but I think it's a good thing. It looks like you're lively. What is your question for me?
So I have a comment and a question.
All right.
So literally rewatching a YouTube Periscope of yours, I was compelled to make coffee to participate in a simultaneous sip with coffee I didn't even want to make. And the harder I thought about not being persuaded by you, the more determined I became to make that pot of coffee.
You're not alone. I hear stories about this all the time. Now, for full disclosure, I think everybody who watches these know that I'm a trained hypnotist and I write about persuasion, right? And it's no surprise, nobody should be surprised that the simultaneous sip is overtly, I'm not trying to hide anything. It's meant to have an influence on you and to develop a habit which you would find pleasurable. Now, part of the problem is that your brain is saying, I don't want to do this. But the other part of your brain is saying, if I do, I might enjoy it more because that's how I've developed a habit that I just feel like I'd enjoy it a little bit more with coffee. Now, it turns out that coffee increases your mood. So you're improving your mood at the same time you're watching my show, and then those two things get paired. So one of the basics of persuasion is pairing things. So any good feeling, you pair it with whatever you want somebody to feel good about, and the feelings conflate. So I am, and I hope it's obvious to everybody so that nobody feels like they're being manipulated or tricked, because I'm doing it as visibly as possible, associating the goodness of coffee along with some feeling of camaraderie. One of the things about Periscope that's different from any other medium is that this is personal and mass broadcast at the same time. I don't know that anything has ever been like this before, because I'm mass broadcasting, but yet this feels like a one-on-one conversation, like literally right now, but all the time, because I'm looking at real people's comments, and I'm thinking about real people. I'm feeling your feedback in real time. I'm responding to the feedback in real time. It's like this connected entity, and I try to do my part, which is to make it pleasurable and enjoyable and make sure you get something out of it. And so the coffee association creates this little habit that should, and not just should, it obviously is working, over time with reinforcement, and the reinforcement is what makes it powerful. You'll feel a sense of connection to the other people. You'll feel a sense of completing a task, maybe. It's like, hey, I did my sip. And you'll feel the little rush that the beverage gives you, even if you're drinking another beverage you like. So it should, over time, have exactly the effect that you described for something like, a third of the people. There are always going to be other people who are just dipping in and out, people who have never had the first sip of coffee, et cetera. But for about a third, I would predict, would have a pretty strong attraction to having the simultaneous sip. So thanks for that comment. Oh, do you have
one question? Well,
sure.
And to be fair, I only participate in about 50% of the sips. That said, I do have a question. So Mark Cuban did mogul support at Wired and answered questions over the internet. And his last comment was responding to Yang asking him to run for president. So Cuban Yang 2024, what's your take?
Well, I don't see Cuban getting into it this time because I
2024,
don't.
2024.
Oh, 2024? 2024, Yang Cuban probably would be impossible to beat.
I would agree. They've already got my vote.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's not entirely clear to me that they would even be obviously Democrat or obviously Republican. I feel as if they're carving out a new category of pragmatism. Nobody's tried that. As weird as that sounds, nobody's tried pragmatism, meaning if there's a science to it, follow the science. If there's no science to it, see if you can find the science. And if you can't do the science, maybe you can test it in a small way. Test it. So if you put a Yang and a Cuban together, and by the way, do we assume that Cuban would be president in this arrangement, or are you assuming Yang is president?
Obviously Cuban. I mean,
okay. All right. Good. Okay, we're on the same page. Cuban would be far more likely to be the president candidate of those two. I, for one, would be really, really interested in a pragmatic set of candidates, and I wouldn't really even care which party they ran in, as long as they were, let's say, intellectually and otherwise committed to following the facts and testing and educating the public and maybe testing some things small, just a rational set of ways to move forward. That would look really, really appealing to me. I got to say, that would be really appealing because we don't have anything like that. And it's because we don't really have the personnel in place that could pull that off. Could Mark Cuban and Yang pull off the first rational administration? I think they could. They're both special personalities. You don't get a Mark Cuban every day, right? You don't get a Trump every day. You don't get a Andrew Yang every day. They are special characters, and I think that they could have a special role. 2024 is going to be interesting, and if Mark Cuban decides to run in 2024, I'd hate to be running against him. I'll tell you that.